Scare me to death.
Sorry. Everybody awake?
I didn't know they were that loud.
Can be.
Tested.
Good thing you hit it softly.
Please make sure that you turn off your phones for
Okay.
meeting. Put your phones to silent. I'd like to open our meeting with a prayer. Lord, help us as citizens to work together in harmony to make decisions to benefit our community. Thank you. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the state of Texas allegiance. I pledge allegiance to thee.
Honor the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag.
Pledge.
Just to get off the internet, one state under God, one and indivisible. Don't know which one's right. Okay.
You get a lot of practice, Ed, with
Yes.
all the public meetings.
Okay. Is there any public? No. So we have no comments from the public, so agenda 3 is done. Item 3. Consider and act on requests for adjustments or relief. Do we have any requests?
Yes, you might have one.
Oh, okay.
I do. Maria Gutierrez, at 9517 East Woodmark. She's in Conroe. Last year, she purchased a house in the appraisal district and never updated her address. So she never got the bill. So the refund amount is $29.89. So she's asking for penalty and interest to be waived. And it falls under the law of waiving.
We have any discussion?
Make a motion,
Okay.
make a motion to
Excellent.
approve the expense and the refund. So, or be refunding. her.
It's a tax refund, yes, for 2023.
In the amount of $29.17.
$29.89.
Thank you.
Does anyone second that?
Second.
Okay, can we have a vote? Aye. Okay. Pass. Thank you. Then we have to approve our agenda for September. Review and act on the minutes of the September 2024 Board of Directors meeting. Does anyone? (2024). Do we have any corrections, additions, or comments? Okay. Review and act on the quarterly investment reports for July through September 2024. Any discussion, comments? Okay. Can we pass those 3 together?
You need to pass 5 through 9 all at once.
5 through 9? Okay.
Unless something gets pulled out.
Okay. We received the tax collector's report from Jeannie Scott. That's on page 16. Consider and act on approving attendance and expenses for district and or Woodlands Water Trust business. I don't think we have a. Great. So now we'll begin with our regular agenda. So we received the regular monthly SJRA Woodlands Division report, including updates on operations, projects, and public outreach. Chris?
Chris is not here. I'll be taking that. Reminder that our report is pages 17 through 40, and there's nothing unusual to call your attention to, so be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
We want to take a minute to review it. Have there been any changes in the projects?
That some have progressed, some have not. Let's see, we're in design on a number of them. The owner advisor working on the wastewater treatment plant facility, that firm Carollo is doing the next analysis on the 4 different scenarios for the wastewater treatment plant. We have a delivery to the trustees for November 1st of a draft decision matrix schedule, and we should have that in about 2 weeks, ready to go. But the others are progressing along as needed. We've had a couple of water line breaks, and they're noted in the report.
Are they in MUD 7 at all?
That I
What do you attribute that to?
Doing more contractor drilling, straight through our pipe, and one was an actual break.
Okay, well, we can't prevent that.
Is, Research Forest, Bud 47 out of, Willis Point, and then, Roberts Point. Those were the 3.
Thank you. Can we move on to 11, receive updated regarding status of Bear Branch, Panther Creek Branch, and Research Forest Drive drainage improvements project?
Yes, we held a stakeholder meeting a couple weeks ago. Got all of the 6 MUD stakeholder representatives up to speed on the history of the project, where we've been, how we got here, where we're at now. And from that meeting, it was agreed that
for this as
request the engineers to bring back to the stakeholder group a cost estimate to run a couple different scenarios of the model that's been created over the last few years. And the scenarios of running that model would look like, how much improvement could we get for the money we have? That was one of the main ones. And then how much could we do for about half of the money we have? So we will currently, it looks like we have confirmed that the next stakeholder meeting on that will be November 1st at 2 p.m. Meeting.
Are you gonna be a representative? I have you.
I was at the last meeting. Yeah, Jack and I both attended.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Oh, not right.
it's Paul.
Jack and Paul.
Did you have any updates? You want to share with some updates from it? You're a pro.
I plan to be there again. I think mainly the way I was thinking of it is that, like you said, we know how much more money that we don't have that we needed for the full-blown plan. And so what they've been asked to do is what can we do with the money we have allocated? And what effect it would have on the system? Positive effect.
How much is it budgeted for?
Yeah. You remember the number that we do have, the budget,
around 11 million.
11.3.
11.3 million.
Thank you.
So, more to come. We'll have that stakeholder meeting and then have some direction from that.
Will we look at federal funding or any, I know they're looking at flooding assistance.
So we already have the funding.
Okay.
The 11.3 is low interest loans and government funding.
Any more questions, comments? All right. We'll move on to agenda 12, item 12, update on AC waterline condition-based assessment.
You should have a handout in front of you. This was something that Brad had requested, but he was interested in knowing where the lines that had broken and where the samples were being taken. And so this map represents those locations.
So the acoustic 1, 2, 3, and 4 are where the samples are?
Let's see.
The non-destructive
Yes,
is the acoustics.
yes. And they have, and they don't start the destructive testing until, well, I'm looking at this. So we're still working on phase 1, which is acoustic testing. And then phase 2, which would be the sampling. And we should have a report in June. And then we will be bringing the results of that report to you all in July.
In December,
In July.
July of next year?
Yes, ma'am.
Thought we were gonna have something in December, but maybe
At the beginning of the year.
No, ma'am.
July of 2025.
Because if you look at upcoming activities through December, they complete the field work, review the data from the testing, develop phase 2 work plan, and then begin phase 2. And as you can see, phase 2 work is complete in February. Take them a couple of months to prepare the report, and then we'll need time to review it, refine it, and then bring it to y'all.
Great. Thank you very much for providing that.
And then there are some links or some websites listed so that you can read about the different types of testing that's being proposed.
Oh,
I have not heard anything. But we are getting lots of opportunities for samples.
I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, I don't know if any of them have been AC lately.
Um,
The latest ones, I don't think were.
No.
They've been BBC.
great. Item 13, receive the attorney's report. Brian,
Nothing under item 13.
move on to 14, annual review of policy number FIN 10 regarding investment and disbursement of district funds and adoption of a resolution and amended policy in connection therewith.
You've got the resolution in your packet there on page 41. The investment policy has to be reviewed on an annual basis. Our firm conducts that review on behalf of all of our district clients. This year, we are not recommending any changes to the investment policy, so the resolution's been prepared to evidence that we've completed our annual review and no changes are necessary at this time. Do you need a motion to approve the resolution?
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the resolution.
Okay. Emily, do we second it?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Move on to item 15, update of One Water Task Force.
There's no update. We've been done with,
Oh, has a meeting been scheduled for November? When do you expect the first meeting?
The next meeting.
The next meeting?
I don't know. We're not doing that. We're not scheduling meetings just to have meetings. So what we'll do is if there's a reason to meet, then we'll schedule a meeting. Right now, there's no specific reason to meet at this point.
Have, as far as their directive, I mean, they're focused on the flooding, correct?
No.
What did they decide that they were going to be focusing on with their group?
Yeah, the mission would be to look at water source, subsidence, and then drainage. are the three main pieces of One Water.
Water source, subsidence, and pardon me,
And drainage.
and drainage.
That's the mission.
So drainage.
To assume that because that's what it was looking at 3 years ago, 4 years ago, that that's what it is, but that's not true.
So is this the order of priority?
Not necessarily. It could be. If you look at water source around the region, that is an issue that we have at this point. And folks could come to the conclusion that a continual reduction in groundwater at the rate we're going would increase subsidence. And then subsidence folks would come to the conclusion often that increased subsidence has effects on drainage. So they all kind of tie together, is how the group looked at it when looking at the potential goals of the group.
Because we have all this rain, drainage, of course, is an issue. And I know we've had discussions of where could there be additional drainage potential and partnering and having this one water task force. I just am curious if it's certainly not meeting to meet, but getting the right people in the room and maybe moving the ball forward. Just curious how that was going. Because
Great, yeah.
Going great.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, we just talked, there's only 2 projects that have been talked about at all, and both are in evaluation with Bear Panther, which I just updated on, and then Spree Creek, which is a much greater project across multi-counties, and that's in review as well. And there's many entities that are involved in that. So those are really the only 2.
So is
affected
One
areas.
Water in that as well?
Well, it came out of One Water originally.
Okay.
Yeah, that evaluation. So other than that, there's no other looks at drainage or anything at this point.
I'd be interested in the Spring Creek. It could be updates on that and where we are.
Yeah,
Because drainage is an issue. I just want to make sure that we're looking at it and moving forward.
yeah, absolutely. There's been many dollars spent on it. It's like I said, multi-jurisdictional. There's a agreement in place between multi-counties, multi-jurisdictions in order to study it, and it's in study. And that agreement was expired a few months ago, and it's been re-updated or updated and then sent back through all the entities that were involved in the first place, so that the study basically could continue and finish up.
When do they have an end date for the study to?
I don't know the answer to that entirely. It should be hopefully in the next few months. And if you'll recall, and y'all received a report on that, that was the project that has 2 reservoirs in Waller County.
Yes.
And then some improvements from here all the way through city of Humble and all the way through Harris County as well. That's what that project included.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, item 16, receive and or act on the general manager's report.
All right.
Eric?
Let's see, I already mentioned Bear Panther. I've just mentioned several water line breaks as well. We already mentioned that. I think last month we were kind of in the midst of some construction and some painting, and so we've kind of cleaned up from that, got our first phase of that complete. So we redid some lighting, or just changed light bulbs really, and repainted some things. And so there's more to come with some signage in the lobby and some other interactive things for the customers. And so we'll be continuing with that work as we go. Did want to update the board that we did, I did speak to the Village Association presidents last week to kind of go over the kickoff of the Water Renewal of the Woodlands campaign, and then more specifically to request their involvement in getting on the community work group, which if you recall, the community work group will involve 1 member from each MUD, as well as a member from each village association, as well as a few other community members. And so that was really our first attempt to try to get them focused on identifying a representative for the VAs. And so that went really well. I am happy to report that we have located and identified a new deputy general manager. And so she will start on November 4th. Her name is Kim Wright. She's actually the general manager of Southern Montgomery County MUD across the freeway from here. She's been in that role for about 3 or 4 years or so. And then before that, she was the Highlands manager, division manager for SGA for about 4 or 5 years prior to that. So she has a lot of experience in the water district arena. And like I mentioned, she's the general manager over there right now. So she will bring in, really excited to have her come in.
And she starts again what time?
November 4th.
November 4th.
And then we'll work through a transition. Mike's still here certain days of the week, and then we'll transition her in and as he finishes retiring.
I have a question. The construction projects that's on Lake Woodlands on the east side of the lake, those condos that are being built, what mud will they be in?
That's I think that's the Ritz you're talking about.
Yes.
That's 67. Ritz Carlton condos.
Yes.
It seemed like I read that Kim had is it a force main or a pump station failed, big hole in the ground.
Pretty big sinkhole, yes.
Yeah, having to read it's always a challenging experience. She's a good one, I think. She's done a good job over there.
She's very excited to join us. You know, we're very looking very forward to her coming. Sure.
Yep, I'm going to the tippy top of your report. The drainage concerns, do you have any feedback yet on those? I know that you mentioned everything will be incorporated into the capital improvement and project plan, but the regrading of the storm sewer easements and really looking at restoring things and the reviewing of the ditches throughout the woodlands and the pipes and the conditions. Just curious how that was all going.
We're going to do it after the fall mowings. And so the fall mowings start next week in October. So that knocks the grass down so we can actually run the ditches and see things. Otherwise, can't really see through the higher weeds. So and then we just we should be able to receive our new equipment that's also going to allow us to do that hopefully next week. So it'll all time perfectly. So we'll be able to run all of them, run all the ditches. It'll take several weeks, and then we'll have a couple months to build the capital improvement plan.
Is this green space ditches as well? In the green spaces, just there's ditches in the back between the neighborhoods. I'm just making sure if that's covered by us as well, as far as cutting that grass.
I don't know what a green space ditch is referring to, but we maintain about 1,000 acres of ditches across the woodlands. More or less, if the ditch looks like it's a trapezoid in shape generally, then it's probably ours as a general rule. If it looks like it's just water that's cutting through the forest with no real form or fashion, that's what we call a natural ditch that we don't maintain. So if it's an improved ditch, most of them we do, and the SGA maintains bear and panther branches, which are generally improved, more or less.
And we mow 100 feet either side of the center line. We don't mow the entire strip, entire property. And then we also do Alden Bridge.
Yeah, and then the township mows, would take care of all the ponds. And so there is some kind of overlap there where a ditch turns into a pond and then back to a ditch. There's a few examples of that throughout the woodlands. And so that would be a kind of a crisscross between us and the township maintenance. And I have a map of the ditches if you ever want to take a look.
Interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, all of that stuff can clog up things. If we're not maintaining them, and I just want to know who's focused on maintaining those.
That's what we do.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Only other thing I had was to kick it to John for the communication report.
Afternoon, page 48. Here is the start of your report there. Of course, we've been pushing out a lot of infrastructure renewal since the public launch on September 19. Hopefully you've been seeing materials out in different formats. A big one was the customer survey. So that finished on the 6th. We got the results, put a few key ones in there. Wanted to review with you. We got 366 responses. We had an 86% satisfied or very satisfied level with our overall quality of water and wastewater services. So that tracks quite consistently with our previous community surveys on favorability ratings. So that was good to see that continue. 72% satisfied or very satisfied with maintenance of our infrastructure. We did see a little bit of a dip there, 63% satisfied or very satisfied with the value they receive for the money paid for water and wastewater, and 20.5% were neutral. So, I think that's a key one for us because I think our customers receive tremendous value given the water rates, the mud tax rates, and the quality of our services. So that's an opportunity for us to get some more education out about that. So we'll look at that. Top priorities for customers, safe drinking water was number one. Reliable long-term water supply came in second, and sustainability rounded out the top three there. As of middle of last week, we've had 2,000 visitors, unique visitors to the Water Renewal the Woodlands website. So that's getting good traffic. We're continuing. We will forever be updating it with the latest information. We add to the FAQs. We've added a couple things based off of some of the customer input and questions we've received through the customer portal. And we'll also be adding project cut sheets. So these are one-pagers on individual projects, talking about their timelines, estimated costs, funding, and so on, project description. And then the thought is to have those then woven into an active map at some point, so you can see where these things are occurring. You can pull that up and go in depth on a specific project if you wish to.
With the 72% on overall maintenance of water and wastewater infrastructure, does anyone make comment as what their concerns are?
I didn't see any, well, there was no comments that came through the survey. There wasn't a mechanism for that. And I haven't seen anything come through the questions or comments specifically about that, unless I'm missing something.
What specifically?
Well, if 72%, I usually when I'm looking at a survey, I'm looking for 8 or 9 or 10. And I consider 70 kind of not great.
What was the topic?
The overall maintenance of water and wastewater infrastructure. So I'm wondering, what are people not satisfied about?
Or what do they don't know?
What are they,
Right,
right.
I think there's education.
What is it that
Value.
we,
What he mentioned was value. Well, I'm not sure that folks realize that the Woodlands has the lowest tax rate in Montgomery County and some of the lowest water and sewer rates. But I don't think they realize that the value is sitting there and that the rates are so low. So if you don't know that, you wouldn't be able to,
There's a lot of chatter, John, out on the interwebs about, why we know about the tax increase, just as far as the assessment for Montgomery County and taxes, that all that went up. And people are like, why did I get such a big rate increase? And it wasn't us and our rate. It's not our water rate. But it's just how their bill comes together and why things look different. And why, because their assessment is maybe 20 or 30, 40,000 for their home, and there's a portion of that goes to their water. I think some of that needs to be explained because I think they think we're all just popping, like, where's the money going? So we have to, I think, describe. And my neighbor asked me, she's like, oh yeah, that's right. So it was just real quick But there's a lot of discussion out there, and there are a lot of mud directors who are trying to interject and trying to help people understand. But at the same time, I think that that could also come from how your bill's broken out and how,
Absolutely. So we just had a piece go out in the weekly on how your mud taxes are calculated. That's the kind of message we want to keep getting out in front of folks so they understand that the answer to that. We have discussed, another director has been really keen on getting some information out, maybe through the water bill on going into how taxes are arrived at. And so we've been discussing, maybe there's an insert possibility that we dedicate towards that, or dedicate a bill ad space to that at some point here in the near future. But just finding more and more ways to help folks understand mud taxes.
And also for a comparison that they're not paying, they're getting great value for the money that they pay. That other areas are higher.
Yeah, I think there was a training, when you did your training in June, you had kind of an overview of here are all the different levels in the different areas. And here we're paying the least of everybody, but people, we don't know that, right?
Well, that image.
That would be a really good one to share.
And that's what it's on the weekly this week.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Next week, check it out.
Yeah, the next week it'll have those two, tax and the water and sewer bill stuff. That exact image that you were referring to.
And last year when we had the rate increase, we did dedicated emails to everyone on our list, explaining the rate increase, the reason behind it, and then also with that information included in there was the mud tax graph, and helping folks again realize where we sit in comparison to other muds in the Montgomery County, which is at the bottom.
Yeah.
So we need to keep getting that information out, for sure. If you come across stuff on social media, particularly Nextdoor, if anybody,
Seems to be where the chat's at.
yeah, that's where a lot of the good stuff happens. We love seeing that, but it's hard for us to track it. If you ever have a moment, you can just screenshot it. I'd love to, yeah, we'd love to see that. It's just more information for us.
Yeah, we recognize that trying to stay out ahead of all the misinformation, we just don't have the resources to do that and chime in on every single thread of all the stuff that's being said out there. But if we know some of the misinformation or things that are being said, we can organize our the messaging that we are sending out either through the website or weekly or emails or whatever to kind of combat some of those erroneous things that kind of get spread over time.
Just people, chiming in on what they think might be,
Right.
and nobody really.
It's a lot of opinions. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I just wonder if they understand the question, because you go from 86 to 72. It just seems like they're
What's behind
not
I think
quite
it's
sure
probably,
what you're
I mean,
asking.
there was no messaging at all. He didn't ask. He said there was no way to
Yeah.
put
So,
any comments in.
Additional surveying, community working group, public meetings and so on, these are all key tools for understanding why it came in that, where that deficit is. Availability rating, yeah. Okay, so yeah, moving on. You've got some market materials here in the next couple pages. Water bill ad will be on infrastructure renewal and on the next bill. Note there on page 49, you see Instagram on there. So we are now actively posting. So we're continuing to add to our social media suite. And just want to note on page 51 there, you've got your outreach calendar. We've got a big event coming up on Saturday, actually two big events at North Shore. We'll be out at the Wildflower Festival, which is always a popular one during the day. And then we'll be transitioning to the 50th anniversary celebration at night. That's again, all at North Shore on Saturday. So if you're out there, come hang out and help with us for a minute.
I was watching an old the Woodlands Green presentation, and it was talking about dog poop. Is there any way we can kind of talk about that on some of our, I know it's silly.
This was not my idea, but
It's not one of those water agency thing.
Oh, it's not?
I think
Okay.
unfortunately, it's not, well, fortunately, it's Spring Creek and the receiving body and the guest we had talked about the fact that most of the creeks in Texas are contaminated with E. coli and that a lot of the source is dog poo. People don't pick it up, so it washes into the spring creek and other things. So that's what she happened to see, that one about the enormous amount of
It was
waste that
incredible.
they can, 100,000 people in the Woodlands all got at least one, average of 2 dogs each. So you can imagine, but that's what she was discussing, but it's more of a, well,
It's an
it
education.
comes all, downstream. We've got Lake Houston and other places, but
And we have helped push that very message in the past. The MUDs did fund all of the storm drain markers that are, by last count, maybe 50% of the way installed. So there's about 10,000 storm drain inlets. About that. So the MUDs funded that, volunteer effort through the coordination of the township. That went into the installing. So that's still in process. That's still happening. And firsthand experience in previous positions and mucking around in storm drains, I can tell you that there's a lot of dog poop in storm drains. People love to bag their dog poop and throw it in the storm drain. And so that's one way we help to message on that topic.
Township too, we said, because I mean, the trails are littered with it. I walk about 5 miles a day and the trails it's everywhere. People don't pick up after their dogs, so.
we got the Woodland Green went to the township a few years ago and got a few more installed, the bag stations, but you also have to get them from there into a trash can. So you gotta kind of spot them where people would put that stuff, but, so we've got a bunch of them around, but it's just getting people educated to do it.
We have all these beautiful trails, and just like in any woods, anywhere, you have kind of like a welcome to the trail, like put your dog poop in the basket, right? So anyway.
It's really an issue to lobby the township on, because they're the ones that manage most of those properties, those trailheads,
I think that whole E. coli conversation would wake people up to the fact that this comes back.
Pretty eye raising.
Yeah.
Good news is Market Watch program.
Mhm.
Yes, I did. I was there.
And she thought it to be useful, so that's the good news.
Yes, I encourage everybody to watch those programs.
Thanks.
I think I had was, we had we brought, I think it was 17 directors to the AWD New Director 101 seminars that were, this was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Great attendance. We ended up renting a bus because it was cheaper than everybody driving, and we got about 20 people that went. AWD provides quite a bit of content and resources for my directors, and so what I wanted to start doing is bringing up kind of the calendar of things to come in the upcoming. And there's a couple events to put on our radars. One is the AWD industry webinar that'll be on October 25th. That's a noon webinar. Then on October 30th in the evening is their what they call the fall seminar. It's about an hour-and-a-half seminar. That's on the west side of town. And then January 24th and 5th is the AWD Midwinter Conference. Those are the 3 next main items
Where will the conference be?
in Austin.
Thank you.
Oh, and if you are interested in any of those things and need help getting registered, reach out to Shelley and she will help you move in that direction. That's all I have.
Okay, we are moving on to the Woodlands Water Trustees Report. Oh, that's Brad, that's you.
I know, right? It's me. I'm Brad. You're
Emily.
Brad. We're all Brad. Okay, Region H update. We can all read here.
What page are you on?
I'm sorry, 53.
Thank you.
So I think one of the things catching my eye was the financials. The net loss for the current period was 137,000. at the end of September. And investments at the end of September was 1,051,051. Year-to-date capital purchases were 365,000. We talked, there's some talk about the water loss due to flushing, and then the number 1 municipal wastewater treatment plant information. Plant of the year. I think that's great. Trustee Hauk questioned the rolling 12-month water loss being 5.1, and that it's a total, it's a rolling 12 months. And it'll just give a better comparison from year to year. So Mr. Millsaps came, and he is the Emergency Services Director and Chief of Staff with Judge Keogh's office. I think it's personally great that he's getting involved in water because of all the flood and storm mitigation projects that we have going on here, and it's an emergency. We've seen emergencies around the country that include water. I think that he's really dialing into that. So I'm glad that he was there to share and talk about working together, so there's no duplication of efforts. I think that's great. And then here's a little bit about the line break. There's a significant 12-inch water line break at the northeast corner of Research Forest and Research Park. The staff members worked on the break late into the night to get the water restored to the area. So, thank you for all that.
And that break was due to, did they identify the cost?
Yeah, the contractor, there's throughout the Woodlands, there's contractors that have, we'll call them boring rigs that will, what many of them are doing is installing fiber optics. So that's kind of a free for all with different contractors that go in and do that. Tacus has been in there, EVs, a number of others. And this contractor was boring a very small diameter line that would eventually have fiber or something like that in it. And just bored right through the line, 12-inch line. So unfortunately it's under concrete. It's right at the corner of an intersection. So a lot of logistics, traffic control, locating. It was under four, what we call a 4-barrel, basically four, I think there were 30-inch reinforced concrete pipe for the drainage that was going under the intersection. So it just complicates things when you got to dig all that up to get to your break. Yeah, it was a lot of work. We learned about it about 4 or 5, and it was done. It was back on by midnight. A lot of effort.
Details on that. Everything else was pretty much what we heard with John Geiger's report on the results with the survey. And then there was also some information regarding other ideas for marketing, talking about the condition of asbestos cement water lines. I think just an education on that would be good for people. And then major infrastructure projects and just keeping people in the loop on that. That's it for the trustees report. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. We move on to recess closed session.
Not necessary.
Not necessary, okay. Then we can discuss future agenda and announcements. Is there anything we need to place for our future agenda? I had a question about the renewal committee that I'm on, Eric.
Yes.
There was supposed to be a meeting scheduled sometime in the next month.
Yes.
Will it happen?
Sometime in the next month.
Okay.
Yes.
I reported earlier that we're still trying to gather the members from the VA that I met with
Okay.
last week. So
Okay.
once we have the members identified, then we can start rolling with getting a schedule put together. So our goal is to still get together in November, but we've got to get all the members identified first. The MUD members have been identified and some of the VA members have been identified, but we just need to get that wrapped up and then we can start rolling on scheduling.
Okay, and I wanted to add Paul Nelson's report from the United States Geological Survey that was done September 18th or 19th. Could you give us?
One of
a report on
those,
that?
yeah. Well, I'll try to keep it really, really brief. The good news is that it's on the website now. So again, I would suggest you do that because it's Jason Ramage is a good presenter and he's with USGS. But just to recap, USGS, the Geological Survey for decades have annually measured the top of the water to the surface. And actually, someone asked about the tools they use, and the answer is they use a metal tape like you would do to cut a board. They actually, except it's a little longer. And they actually put those into each of the wells. They wait till the winter time or less demand time so that the water has a little time to settle, maybe turn it off for pumps for an hour or longer if they can. So then they measure each one of these and they have, the results we saw were for 400 plus wells that were in the Chico and the Evangeline across from Galveston to Walker County and 88 wells in the Jasper. So what they've done is what Jason showed was a 1 year change in elevation, a 5 year, and then a 20 year, and even back to 1977. And the good news for us citizens is they've kind of converted those wells into little triangles. And so they've converted the data from either a rise in the water or a decrease in the levels. And this year, it showed that in the last 12 months, there's been a little bit of a decline in the, and I can't really pinpoint the wells because it's on one sheet of paper, but the Woodlands wells, but I wanted to stress that keeping in mind that they looked at those probably in January. So that showed an increase over January of last year. SGRA does their own measurements frequently, right? So if they have a database today that says there was a increase, that's not really apples to orange, apples to apples, because there's some of it. We had a very dry summer last year. We had a wet summer this year for a while. So it all depends on when that picture's taken. The 5 year, it showed again that when I say Woodland wells, it's central, south Montgomery County, and they're up to 40, 50 feet down, which isn't it? So they're basically, you look at these triangles and they're red, or they can go from kind of pink to the very dark brown red. The good news is when they turn blue and they go from light blue to deep blue, showing the rises in the water table. So again, you really should watch it. I think it's Jason's a good presenter. Those were the two main things, but you have to keep in mind that 1 year really doesn't mean much. 5 doesn't mean a lot either. But you go back to 1977, and some of our wells are 250 feet below what they were then. So they could go up and down this bay, but they're still a lot farther from the surface than they were 30, 40 years ago. The most telling slide shows basically as many wells as you could count from Galveston up to the north of Montgomery County. And you can clearly see the blue is Galveston up to the city of Houston. That is area one of the conversion. And they're limited to 10% of their demand be surface, 10% is groundwater. 90% of their water comes from surface. So you can see the wells have stopped declining. They may rise a little bit, they may rise quite a bit.
And that conversion of surface water began in those areas in 2010. In Montgomery County, it's still going on. In Montgomery County, it started in 2015, 16, but it's no longer going on anymore because of regulations changed. So where that surface water is still continually used and the groundwater reduction is still in place, they're actually seeing the wells start to rebound, but not in the.
And if you look at the map too,
But not in Montgomery County.
the,
Because of
the overall picture of the 7 or 8 counties that are involved, you can see the blue, and then it starts to turn red and gets real red in Northwest Harris County, just across the street from us, and South Central Montgomery County, which is us. All we, again, the whole goal obviously is it takes a while, but our goal is to continue to use that surface water and increase it to the point that our no longer turns red, but that we stabilize. So I think it's easy to understand the pictures, but you do have to, again, consider the fact that there's a little off from what if Chris came and told us that they actually came up in the last 12 months, well, they may indeed have, because it's from July to July instead of January to August. So the woodlandsgreen.org, and on the front page there's a sustainability lecture banner. Click on that. It goes to that as well as other recordings that are now on YouTube. So it's there, and I would recommend that you watch it.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have a link to it through our website as well.
Oh,
That's
great.
really great. Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking about how much after reading the SJRA report and the reported water usage that the Woodlands uses of groundwater on a monthly basis of all of the pool. 14%. 14%. I feel like we're doing a good job. For continuing to increase our surface water.
If I had my way, we'd use about 98% surface water. But again, I think that's why we need to educate ourselves about what's really going on. And I should mention that the thing they normally do too, there wasn't a lot of focus on the subsidence, but that's the same picture. The bluer it is, the slower subsidence in their different monitoring sites become. And one of the astounding numbers, I knew it was in trouble, but Jersey Village, Addicts area, actually, since they started measuring, has subsided 3.88 feet more
How
now.
long is that?
7.
We measure our subsidence here in centimeters and half a centimeter, but that's actually, the ground has gone down
In 7
almost 4
feet,
feet.
4 feet, 7.
So that's what we don't want to do.
So,
Because even though the wells rebound, the ground does not. It continues to stay compressed.
and I wasn't countering you, saying, oh, we're at 14%, but I'm thinking, man, we have a total usage, and I see that there are a lot of people who just use groundwater.
Oh.
And boy, we could have more people joining in to improve our situation, and we're still working to improve our surface water percentage increase. So I appreciate what we're doing in a slow way, how it goes. Thank you for the education over the last number of months to get a grasp on where water is being pooled and how it's being used. So.
Well, and I would also add that they'll tell you, Jason mentions every time that even though the wells may be turned off, water comes back up, the land doesn't come with it. Once it's down, it doesn't come back up. So
Hmm.
I'm done with my preaching.
Well, thank you very much for that report.
Thank
And
you.
with that, I adjourn our meeting for Mud 7.